Hello and welcome to another video from S15 Studio. I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe and leave any video recommendations down in the comments section. Be sure to check out my website s15studio.com where I have courses on Revit and AutoCAD. I'm currently running a 50% off launch sale on my AutoCAD beginner to expert course, so be sure to check that out before it expires. In this video I'm going to dive into all aspects of the interface. When we open up the software, we're first greeted with the home screen. We can always return back to the home screen at any point by coming back to the Start tab. These tabs, similar to internet browsers, our drawings or projects will appear here as tabs. So during that process, we can always return back to the home screen by coming back to the Start tab. In the home screen, we have our Get Started section. If we wanted to quickly start a project, we could click on Start Drawing. Autodesk have provided us with a number of predetermined templates. We can look at those here by clicking on the template drop-down arrow. If you hover your mouse over the name, you'll get a little information box, and that will give you a short description of what that template is. We have normal English in feet and inches using named plot styles. The second is the same but for 3D. The third doesn't use named plot styles but uses color dependent plot styles. And then same again, we have a color dependent 3D template. For this course we will only be covering the 2D side of AutoCAD. As well, we'll be only using the metric templates. If you wanted to use no template and to then build your own, you'll come down to here where we have no template and you'll choose either imperial or metric. To get us started, we will use a AutoCAD ISO.dwt, to which we will then build our own template at the end of the course. Within AutoCAD, there are various different file types. So our template files are noted as .dwt, which would stand for drawing template. When we create a project, the file type is .dwg. The .dwt files will eventually be saved as .dwg once we begin the project. In a few moments, we will be opening the AutoCAD ISO.dwt, as that will be the last selected template file. When we click on Start Drawing, when we open the software, it will automatically open up the AutoCAD ISO.dwt file, speeding up the opening process, saving us going to the drop-down menu and selecting it from here. So why do we need template files? We will soon begin to create text styles, dimension styles, layers, page setups, title blocks, and other components to model our drawing. These components take time to create. To save you from creating them each time you open a new drawing, we will create a template with all of that information built into it. For example, in the template which I use on a daily basis, I have examples of the text which I want to display. I have all of the typical layers which I use, all of my different text styles, dimension styles, as well as my sheet setups. And within each sheet, I have prepared them correctly for printing, and I've also added a title block to display my information. All of this is something which we will cover throughout the course. Underneath the template selection, we can open files. So this will bring us into our common drive where we can select our drawings. Below that, we have Open Sheet Set. We currently have no sheet sets created, which is something we will cover later on. Below that, we have Get More Templates Online. This will bring us to the Autodesk Knowledge Network. And we can select various templates provided by Autodesk, as well as sheet sets, typical drawings, and DGN files. A DGN file is a 2D or 3D drawing created by various construction CAD software, such as MicroStation and Intergraph Interactive Graphic Design System. This is something we won't be covering in detail in this course, but it's good to know what the DGN means. Below that we have Explore Sample Drawings, which will bring us to our common drive where there are various different examples for us to go through. For example, if I go to ActiveX, External Attribute, there's an assembly sample in there. After you learn some of the basics within this course, it will be good to go back and you'll understand those files a bit more. In the center section here of the home screen, we'll have our recent documents. So the last files which were opened on my computer will appear here in the recent documents. If there's one particular project which you are working on and you always want that to be at the top of the list and never to be removed, what you can do is you can pin it. So what that means is that drawing file will always be at the top of the recent documents section. And if you are then finished with that project, you'll simply unpin. Then over to the right we have the notifications section. So here Autodesk will give us notifications on new releases, whether or not I need to update the software, as well as some tips and tricks. Below that is the Connect section, where we'll see our login, and if we have any feedback, we can select Send Feedback and we can speak directly with Autodesk. Depending on your version of AutoCAD, this home screen may look slightly different, but essentially it should all be the same, bar the layout. So for example, our recent documents section in the middle, we have the option here to change how that appears on our screen. And we'll see down the bottom here, we are currently on the Create section. Again, this may look different on yours. If we toggle over to the Learn window, we can see what's new in AutoCAD. We also have some Getting Started videos, where they'll cover some of the basics. There are some learning tips and some online resources. And to come back to the Create page, we'll either click here on the right or come down to the bottom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our template file. So again, I will be using the metric template file. You can of course continue with the imperial file. Just know that obviously I'll be using millimeters while you'll be using feet and inches. All of the steps and processes will be exactly the same. So I'll select AutoCAD ISO.dwt and our first drawing will open. We've now opened the template showing our drawing 1. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go over the interface and just give you a brief explanation of what things are. Then what we'll do is we'll put all of those things into practice one by one. We'll start up here in the top left hand corner with the big A, that's our application menu. The application menu contains commands that are relevant for the drawing as a whole. So that means this is where we can create a new drawing. If we hover over, we get our drawing or sheet set. Next we have the open section, so we can open an existing drawing. We can open a drawing from AutoCAD Web, a sheet set, DGN, or sample files. We can also save our progress. We can save as. So we have our drawing for web, template standards, and other features. Next we have our import section where we can import PDF, PGN, or other formats. We can also export a DWF and so on. Then we have our publish, which I'll explain in more detail later. We have our print, our drawing utilities, and we can close. So we can either close the current drawing or close all drawings which we have currently open. If I come down to the bottom left hand corner, meaning that I'm not selecting any of these options on the left. That brings us here to our recent documents section. So the last two drawings which are open are then displayed in the recent documents. Again, if I wanted my library drawing to remain at the top, I'll select the pin and then unpin it once finished. We can also change the display as well, how we want our drawings to be displayed, by order list, access, date, by size, or by type. We can also show small icons, large icons, small images, or large images. As well as our recent documents, we also have open documents, meaning whatever drawings we currently have open will be displayed here in the open documents section. As well, we have how we want those files to be displayed. At the top, we have our search command, so anything we wanted to search for within this area, we can type here. Bottom right hand corner, we have exit Autodesk, AutoCAD. This will shut down the entire software, not just close down the drawing, but actually close down AutoCAD. And to the left of that, we have our options. So I'll select my options. So in here, we have a series of different headings. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with this, but there are sections of this which we will refer back to throughout the course. So this is how we access our options within AutoCAD. So I'm going to cancel. So that was our application menu. Next, we'll look at the quick access toolbar, which is just to the right of that. So that's that section up here. So just as it's titled, this will give us quick access to certain tools within the software. The first is to create a new drawing. Second is to open an existing. Then we have save the current, save as. Then we have open from web and mobile, and then save to web and mobile. We can send it to print. We have our undo tool, and a little arrow here will show us a list of our undo, so we can go back quite a bit. Obviously at this current time I've only got 2 commands which I've carried out, but as we draw a project we'll have many different commands here which we can undo. We have a redo command as well as the drop down arrow for our redos, and then at the end we have a little drop down arrow. So you see all of these ticks here, these are what are currently displayed. So if we wanted to subtract any of those from the list, if I turn off new, you'll see it will disappear. And I'll turn it back on. So there's our new. What I'll do is then next over to the right we have our Infocentre. The Infocentre contains a search bar. If there's something which we want to find out more information about, we can enter it into the search bar here, and that will bring us directly to Autodesk's knowledge network. So if I wanted to learn how to draw a line, if I type in line and enter, that opens up our information center, and there we have to draw lines, our line command. Click on line command. It'll give us a explanation on how we can draw a line. Then we can sign into our account. We can buy apps from the App Store. We can connect to the Autodesk online community. So when we select it, you can see our different options here. We can connect with Autodesk, go to our Autodesk account, check our hardware is certified. We can also go to AutoCAD blogs, look at YouTube videos, connect to their Facebook or Twitter account. And at the end here, we can click on our help feature, which will essentially just open up our search bar. So what we looked through in our search bar. So if we click on help, it brings us to the main help Infocentre. Then on the top right hand corner, at the very top, we have our close, restore down, and minimize. These 3 controls are for the actual software. The reason I say that is because we have the same tools here and they control the drawing. So when we are closing a drawing, just make sure we use these controls here and not the top right hand corner, as we'll close the actual software. To continue on with the interface, the next thing we'll look at is the view cube, which is here in the top right hand corner. So the view cube allows you to rotate the view of your drawing. This will generally benefit you more in 3D CAD, but as we'll be sticking with 2D CAD, we won't have a lot of use for this, although we will cover some of it throughout the course. To give you a brief demonstration, you can see our view. We have north, south, east, and west. And here's our cube, where we're currently looking at the top, so we're looking down. If I go to the bottom left-hand corner of that cube and click once, we'll enter into the 3D view. And now we'll be able to get a better view of our 3D object. But as we'll only be sticking with the 2D side of CAD, we'll always have it on top. Next is the navigation bar, which is here on the right hand side. The navigation bar allows you to pan, rotate, zoom, and orbit the drawing. We can also do those functions, which is the easiest way to draw in AutoCAD. But to give you a quick demonstration, if I click on the pan, the hand symbol then takes over the cursor. One click and hold the left side of the mouse, and now I can pan the drawing. So that's one click of the left side of the mouse, and I can then pan the drawing. A quicker way to pan is by simply clicking in your scroll wheel on your mouse or your third button on your mouse. So we click and hold, we see the hand symbol appears, and we can pan. So that's click and hold the scroll wheel or your third button on your mouse, and we can pan as well. For this example, I want you to open up a drawing. So we'll come up to the Start tab. We'll go to Explore Sample Drawings. In Database Connectivity and Floor Plan Sample, we'll click on Open. We're getting a prompt here. Would you like to open the read-only file? Yes. And that will open up the floor plan sample drawing. So next down we have our zoom tools. So if we hit the small drop down arrow under the icon, we have various different ways in which we can zoom. So the first one I'll look at is the zoom extents. So the zoom extent zooms to display the maximum extents of all objects. Basically, this means the extent of all drawn objects within the drawing will be zoomed into the center of our drawing space. So if I zoom in with my scroll wheel to enlarge the floor plan, then once we're finished with the drawing work which we need to carry out, we can come over to our zoom tool and we can click on zoom extents. What that does is it'll center all drawn objects within our drawing space. So everything that is currently drawn in that drawing is now centered on our screen. So if I zoom back in with my scroll wheel, we can also use the scroll wheel on our mouse to do the same function. So if I double click on the scroll wheel, it will also activate the zoom extents. So I'll zoom back in with my scroll wheel, and if I double click on my scroll wheel, it will also use the zoom extents function. Next in the zoom tools, we have zoom window. So I'll select zoom window. So if there was a particular area of the drawing that I wanted to be centered, as I wanted to carry out some drawing work, I can use the zoom window. And we can do that by using a specified rectangular window around that area. So if I wanted to carry out some work in this particular area here, I'd use my zoom window. So to create that rectangular window, I will click once with my mouse, move my cursor down to the bottom right hand corner of that area and click once again on the left side of the mouse. So now this particular area is now centered on my screen and I can carry out my work. And once finished, we can double click on our scroll wheel and zoom extents back out. Come back over to the zoom tools. So next down we have zoom previous. So the previous zoom will be displayed. So if I click zoom previous, it will bring me back to our previous zoom window. Next one I'm going to cover is zoom all. So when we choose the zoom all feature, the zoom all feature will display all visible objects and visual aids. So the difference between the zoom extents over the zoom all, the zoom extents will display all drawn objects within the drawing, and the zoom all will include all of the drawing visual aids as well. So that will include our UCS in the bottom left hand corner, and if we have any limitations set up within our drawing as well, it will also include that. And back over to our zoom tools, and the other two which we'll cover are zoom in and zoom out. So if I select zoom in, we're able to magnify the drawing, and we can continue to press the zoom tool there on the right hand side. And same goes for the zoom out. So obviously a quicker way of doing that is just simply using our scroll wheel to scroll in and scroll out. So I'm just putting my cursor in the area where I want to zoom in and zoom out. And we'll just close down this drawing at the top here, clicking on the X and selecting No to save and changes. Below that we have orbit. This again is referring to 3D, so we won't touch on that. Below that is the show motion. Again, this is a 3D feature. And at the top here we have our full navigation wheel. One click will open that up. This is another way which we can model in AutoCAD. So this will always be attached to our cursor. It will follow my cursor around the screen when I move it. And if I wanted to orbit, zoom, pan, rewind, center, walk, look, go up and down, this navigation wheel here will help me to do that. So if I wanted to pan, one click, and I can pan. If I wanted to orbit, one click, and I can orbit. Using the navigation wheel isn't something that I personally use, as I find it gets in the way, and it's easier to use just your mouse and hotkeys on the keyboard. So I'm going to close down the navigation wheel, and you'll see our view is a little askew now. So to bring that back, we'll click on top, and this will reposition our view. Next, we'll look at our cursor. So when I move the mouse, you'll see I have what is called a crosshair, which is moving across the screen. That's giving us the location of our mouse pointer. Next, we're going to look here to what is called our origin or UCS. What this does is displays the X and Y axis. So here is our X axis and our Y. So our X is shown in red, our Y is shown in green. We'll then move down to the bottom left-hand corner, what we call our layout area. This contains the model space, which is what we're referring to here, this model tab. This is where we draw our projects. And next to that is what are called layout tabs, or previously known as our paper space. So if we click on layout 1, that'll bring us to our sheet of paper. And layout 2 is our second sheet. And next to that is a small plus symbol, which will generate another sheet. So we'll go back to our model tab down the bottom left-hand corner, bring us back to our model space. Next, we have our command line, which is this bar here on the bottom of the screen. The command line is where we essentially talk to the software. using various different commands. To give you an example, if I hit L on the keyboard, press enter, I've told the software that I want to draw a line. L is the hotkey for a line. We can then see on the command line in bold, it's telling me what command I've selected, and it's also telling me the first prompt. So it is telling me to specify the first point. I do that with one click. It then tells me the next step. So specify the next point, and we can continue on with our points. You'll see on the right hand side here, it's just showing a log of what I've previously done, and that will be displayed here. Again, we'll dive into this in a lot more detail in the upcoming videos. So to complete this line action, we'll press the escape key, which is in the top left hand corner of your keyboard, and that will cancel that command. Now with the command line, when you first install the software, it'll be placed like this at the bottom of the screen. And we'll see on the right hand side we have our past actions. To make things a bit clearer and so we can utilize our past actions, if we click on the left hand side where there's a series of dots, we click and hold and we can drag that down. We see when I click, I'm able to pick the command line up, and when I get two lines running across the screen, I'll let go. And what I've done there is I've docked our command line. I have docked our command line. So it's now fixed to the bottom of the screen. What that allows me to do is I have those past commands are now displayed just above where I type my command. And if I wanted to trace back even further, if I hover over the top, we'll see we have the symbol to expand the command line. So click and drag and I can expand that up and we get a full history of our commands. The great thing about AutoCAD is we can undo and go back over commands all the way to the start. So I'm going to pull it down, and I like to leave around 3 commands within our command line and leave it like so. Next we have our status bar, which is to the bottom right hand corner. Within this status bar are the common drafting aids which will help us to create our projects. As we progress through the course, I'm going to cover each one of these aids so we'll understand what exactly they do and how they can help us. If you'd like to continue on with this course, please head over to my website s15studio.com, where I have a beginner to expert course totaling about 19 hours with over 235 lessons, where I teach you all aspects of AutoCAD. Thanks for watching, and I'll